What secret are you hiding from everyone but okay to share with us here? That I'm leaving my job in a few weeks. I keep having people try and schedule things with me months in advance where I'm sort of forced to smile and agree. It's always weird to be in that space of too early to give notice. I was just in the same situation. It's super awkward. This is my last week. Cheers to us both. I'm really lonely and sad, but I don't know how to fix it. I just end up feeling like a burden, so I pretend it's all okay. I was abused by a neighbor from 11 to around 14. I didn't tell anybody because I was a boy and embarrassed by it all. The thought of my dad or brothers finding out was too much. Just packed it away. He died when I was away at college. Good riddance. I'm sorry this happened to you. Consider talking to a therapist. I spend all my time at work on Reddit. Same. I operate heavy machinery. I am pretty much a mess about getting older. If I go by my family history, I have less than 15 years left. I have found myself thinking, well, I won't be around for that on quite a few decisions with my so I smile and say, sounds good. When I was 20 plus, I always told everyone I won't live to 30. My 30th birthday, my friends looked at me for that. Now I almost 40 and stopped worrying about age. We all die at some point eventually. I recently found out that I have an extra 10k in student debt. I've already finished watching season 4 of Lucifer. I binge watched it when our daughter was sick and slept the entire day. Me and my wife were still on season 3 when it happened, and I just pretend to be shocked whenever we watch a new episode. I will be taking this secret to the grave. I couldn't do this, even though my so wouldn't really care. I just have me shows and us shows. If she's not about, then I watch one of the former and just keep the us ones for when she's back. Seems silly, but I really enjoy watching new shows with her. Feels more fun of an experience than if I've already seen it. It's a pretty big secret. I failed high school twice and I'm faking going to college but instead taking high school final exams. I feel sad and disappointed looking at my parents' faces. But I can't do anything, instead just give my best in the exams. My exams are from the 2nd of July. Please wish me luck. I really need it. Taking a big exam for the 3rd time here. Let's do our best. I'm planning on getting some pet ducks. When they get together, they sound like old men laughing. I'm going to grad school in the fall and leaving my company. I've known since I was interviewing, and I've always known this was just a quick stint for some money. They would not have hired me if I had told them that though. I did the same thing. I feel terrible about it because my co-workers and managers are all really great. I actually tried to tell my manager the truth today, but I chickened out because he is going to be disappointed. I am a pathological liar. I don't even mean to, but I just do at this point, and it scares me a bit. I am fixing it though. Aside from a few family members, my close friends don't know that I was kicked out 7 months ago and sleeping on an air mattress. Sometimes they'll ask me why I'm wearing things repeatedly, or just curious questions on how my mother is doing. She kicked me out. I'm still in high school and managing as much as I can with a sore back and limited space for the few things I have, but I'm living better than I was with my mother. The family computer didn't break because of downloading music. It was me and my adolescent internet browsing. It seems stupid, but after 3 kids and divorce, I can't figure out my freaking life, neither where I'm going. I carry around regrets and mom guilt and I'm completely lost. Not at all stupid. I'm a mom of 2, divorced, 31, and lost as frick. Everyone kinda is. You are not alone. The kiddos don't need a superhero, just you. My wife cheated on me and we are going through the start of the divorce process. My family doesn't even know. I'm in agony every day. I had some surgery that went very wrong and I am struggling to keep motivated to keep going. I'm a grown man and I love Winnie the Pooh. I don't own any memorabilia or anything, but I watch YouTube vids and if I see it on TV I have to watch it. I like having crushes, but not actually doing anything about them. Partially because I enjoy the blissful feeling of liking someone, and partially because that gets ruined whenever I actually do anything about it. I get crushes on people I don't even think I'm attracted to. I just like picturing myself in a relationship in my head, and cycle through people every couple of months based on the last decently good looking person who's been nice to me. I regret, deeply, not bonding more with my college class. I just now realized that I was liked by them and I kinda pushed them away all these years. Dang. Gotta make sure I'm not doing that. I want to tell my boyfriend I love him, but I think he needs to get help for his mental health issues before this relationship moves forward. You should talk to him about it. It'll help him and might help your relationship. Just be nice and non-judgmental. I think about suicide 20 times a day. This has been going on for about 15 years now. Only my doctor knows. I'm afraid of my neighbor. I don't know why, but he just creeps me out. He's always staring at me, occasionally makes comments on my body. Oh, is that you? I thought for sure someone sent a model over. You have a great body for a teenager. Those shorts look awfully short on you. I'm 14. He and my dad are friends and is always over at my house. When he comes over, I'll always hide in my room. My mom doesn't like him either because of the time he came during my baby sister's sleepover and just sat in silence at the fire pit while my dad went inside to get drinks. I'm afraid to say anything to my dad because I know he isn't able to get out with his friends a lot and he really likes my neighbor. But I can't shake the feeling that something is just off with him. I'm dad to a 14-year-old. I'd be pee if I found out some grown-ass man was creeping on my daughter and no one told me, especially if it was some guy I knew. So there's that side of it as well. I'm really big on honesty because of growing up with a narcissistic parent. However, I never tell people that I am bipolar. I am a PTA mom in the suburbs. The judgment and stigma that would come along with that knowledge would likely affect my entire family. Sorry, my good friend where I live is on the PTA board and is pretty vocal about her struggles with bipolar and her fight to not self-harm. We have embraced her and provide whatever kind of support we can. I hope you can find more supportive people. My dad hits me. When I was 6, I said it to a kindergarten teacher and she reported it to Child Protective Services. My dad told me to say nothing, and when he managed to convince them that I was just making stuff up and they left, he began hitting me several times. He kept saying that I was the reason that the family is falling apart. He kept threatening me with saying that he would send me to an orphanage or leave me in the streets. What could I do? I was 6 years old, for God's sake. He has always made fun of me and talking crap to me while bragging to others about my achievements. He has socially isolated me and my siblings. The only times we could go outside was to and from school. If we came later than expected, he would try to find us and hit us in the car. Now I'm seeing as my older sister becomes like him. Crazy, delusional, not wanting to see why they are wrong, violent and manipulative. I'm lucky to have my mom who kept me sane through all this. We still live with that butthole, but he's less violent. If I didn't have my mom, I think I wouldn't even be here today, honestly. I have luckily not become like him. I vow to never be like him. I'm glad that I haven't gotten any serious mental disorders from all this. I'm an optimistic person. You can always talk to me if you want. You see me most of the time with a smile. Despite this, I have met great friends in school and my little sister and my mom who's with me. Sorry for ranting. I haven't told anyone this before. Wish you all the best of luck. I am physically falling apart. My health is a chain of unfortunate events. I quit smoking. I barely drink. I stay physically fit enough to remain in the military, yet I fight every day just to pretend I am okay. I'm tired of being in physical pain with every little thing. But I will continue the charade until something finally gives permanently. It actually scares me. I hate that I am 45 years old and feel as if I am 80. My maternal grandfather was a hitman who killed several politicians and activists in his country during a very corrupt time. He moved to the US and remarried. My paternal grandfather was a corrupt politician who hired hitmen on his political opponents and embezzled right before stepping down from office and avoiding indictment. Not sure if they ever met BC. This is all I know and found this all out by chance. I don't think even my own parents know this much. Would be crazy if your paternal GF once hired your maternal GF for a hit and then they met at your parents' wedding. I secretly recorded my fiance yesterday. I got him to talk about his D&D character and I didn't want to forget anything because I am going to commission an art piece of it for his birthday. It's killing me to keep it a secret because I tell him everything. I hope he likes it. This is adorable. What a thoughtful gift. Best of luck. About 15 years ago I slept with my high school teacher. Literally never spoke about it out loud to anyone, ever. This is actually the first time I wrote it down even. Guess 15 years is long enough for it to feel like it just doesn't matter anymore. I sometimes hope my grandma passes away soon. She has severe dementia and Alzheimer's, and my mum is the only person my grandma will allow to help her, which means she's basically on call 24/7. She's aggressive, a runner, and basically has the mind of a toddler. I feel like an butthole for thinking it, but we've mourned losing who she used to be. Losing her physically would mean she could be at peace, and my mum could finally take a break. I lost contact to all my friends months ago. I still try to be happy and smile through everything. I am a pretty positive person. I think there will come better times, but especially now in summertime when I see everyone on social media are outside going swimming or having a cookout. It's kinda sad to be at home all the time or go for a walk by yourself all the time. Why is it so hard to find new friends? Damn, haha. One of my best friend's dad cheated on his wife with a secretary or something and she got pregnant. They kept her baby. That was around the time my friend was born. Fast forward 19 years later and on work I met this guy who looks lots like my friend. When he figures out that I know him, he tells me his story. My friend to this day doesn't know he has a half brother living in the same city as him. And I can tell him because the half brother promised me not to, because his dad won't allow it. Yep, fricked up crap right there. I'm a digital artist who made a bunch of paid commissions already. However, it's all cheated. I use a software for the anatomy and just trace over it. I've become that good in linear and coloring, where the obvious tracer red flags don't work anymore. I've never wanted this to come that far, but as soon as I made my first traced drawing, I got sucked into an abyss that is impossible to leave. All my friends know me as the artist. There are many I wouldn't ever been able to talk with without my art. But most importantly, my parents are proud of my work and call me talented. For the fact that I live in constant fear that my parents are disappointed of me, hearing them compliment my drawings is everything to me. But it hurts so much, seeing them love a work I've no right to present. Especially when I try to fit in and complain about tracers, while I'm just one of them. This is going on for 3 years by now. Bloody heck, don't trace. Either you get caught, or you'll suffer because you weren't hit to your senses. If you have a good eye for lighting and a good line, then start practicing figures and do some life drawing. Put in the work to feel good presenting pieces. Even though I have a master's degree, I don't know if I'll ever figure out what I want to do with my life. Nothing really pulls me. My nasty experience is that I don't want to talk to my shrink about, because it disturbs me even after all this time. Hey, I'm almost a shrink. If you don't feel comfortable enough to share anything with your therapist, don't feel obligated to. Whatever you both are doing seems to be working for you to realize that. That I'm in love with Lauren doesn't mean a crap to you, but for me it does. I wish a couple of my exes would talk to me again, even just as friends. I miss them a lot. Parents of Reddit, what is most freaked up secret you are hiding from your children? I'm the child, but my dad waited till I'm grown up to tell me that my mom gave me a lot of sleeping pills when I was a little child, so she could leave me alone at home to maintain her relationship with her lover while my dad was working in another country. That cleared up many things. People are brutal. Well, sorry man. That I've been changing every clock in the house on New Year's Eve to 3 hours early. At 9 PM we celebrate the new year, then hang out for an hour. He thinks he's breaking every rule and has a great time. Now that he's turning 11, this will never happen again. With phones and being somewhat smarter. Lol. That we weren't actually visiting daddy at his work. It's a secure psychiatric ward where he's been since she was 3 months old. I'm curious how your relationship started with the father. Sounds like an interesting story. My parents told me my sister is adopted. They didn't tell her. She's 34. BTW help, what do I do? Buy the whole family DNA test kits for Christmas and watch the world burn. That I don't actually enjoy watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. My 2-year-old would be devastated because that's our show. I was so relieved when my kid started watching SpongeBob. My daughter knows that her grandparents are getting a divorce. She doesn't know that it's because grandpa, 72, decided to knock up a 23-year-old. We will talk about it once she's older, but I don't want to normalize that relationship for a pre-adolescent. That we don't go to bed the same time as they do. I never actually took his nose, it stayed on his face the whole time. In fact, it has never once left his face, even though I have told him that I took it countless times. I even showed him the tip of my thumb as evidence of the theft. Sorry you had to read that, but it feels really good to come clean. This was such a refreshing change of pace from all the molester family relatives. They know daddy works with money, but they don't know it's in the cannabis industry, ETA, legally. Estimated time of arrival, legally. Not really fricked up but still a big secret. I've been living 1/2 hours away from my wife and daughter for the past 11 months. Every time I talk to my daughter she asks when am I coming home? Well, little does she know that next Friday when her and her mom come for what she thinks is just a weekend visit they are actually coming to pick me up for good. That's as amazing. I hope she'll never have to ask that again. I don't have kids but here's a family secret. My mom and I left the straightener on for 2 days while we took a family trip to Canada. It doesn't have an automatic off. We haven't told my dad. Kind of the opposite, but on my 18th birthday my father walked into my room with a bag of weed and a bunch of rolling papers and showed me the entire hidden portion of our house, not on blueprints, accessed through hidden door, that he used to grow weed. I had gotten grounded for smoking weed several times by that point in my life. This was in Florida in the 90s. I secretly bought my son after my wife lost our own child during birth. It's quite easy in my country considering there's a lot of poor parents willing to give away their children. My wife regained consciousness after 4 days. Neither her nor my son know this. My 3-year-old is an absolute miracle. Her birth mom, my wife's sister, didn't want her. Basically tried for an intentional miscarriage via massive drinking and drug use. Born 11 weeks premature, and with 5 different drugs in her system. She shouldn't even be alive by most medical estimations, yet here she is. Slight developmental setbacks, but she is solidly inside the bell curve. Her socialization is on point, and she should start school on time. She will know none of this until she is in her teens, most likely. I am so grateful for this impossible little person. Adoptive parent of 3 kids, 2 of which are biological siblings and cousins. Found out a year after the adoption that the biological parents were half siblings who shared the same dad. The bio parents found out after they had the first child and proceeded to have another. The kids are now 16 and 13 respectively and have zero clue that they are a product of incest. Unfortunately their biological grandpa just passed away, so there very well could be a big reveal coming in the near future. A colleague of mine has a friend who hid from her 8-year-old daughter that she, the 8-year-old, would die within a few years because of a terminal illness she got. I'm working out how to explain that the chicken we eat is the same as the kind of chickens that live on a farm. My whole family thinks I'm awful with money because I'm super broke despite having a good job, but I'm actually socking away every spare penny to put my niece through college and to take care of my parents when they can't work anymore. My wife and I each have a child from a previous marriage. Both of our ex-spouses were abusive cheaters. Both children still adore and idolize their other parent and we just keep smiling and nodding. This probably isn't the type of thing OP was asking, but it is a secret that we will maintain for years. My father molested my daughter. She suppressed the heck out of it. We are still trying to figure out how to break this to her. We cut off all contact with them, but my mother feels that this is something that shouldn't affect their relationship if my daughter doesn't actually remember the incident. I don't agree at all, but that doesn't stop my mother from trying to contact us. She comes from an age when women just suffered and said nothing about it, and so feels that we should just accept my father's apology and move on. It's overall a very confusing situation that we, my husband and I, have trouble understanding how to handle. There's tuna in the fridge, but no matter how much he meows he can't have it because I know he'll just sniff it and meow for something else. My son was planned, but after separating from his father when my son was 8 months old and having basically nowhere to go, no way to actually take care of us on our own, Many times I thought about the possibility of dropping him off at the hospital and skipping town. I never did, and he is 8 now and we are very happy. My mom kept it a secret that the woman I was named after, her mom, my grandma, was stabbed to death by my uncle when my mom was 18. I always suspected my grandma had a tragic death because of how my mom would avoid talking about it, but I didn't know it was that tragic. My son is still very young, but I'm not planning to tell him his dad left us for meth and another woman. He's clean now and they actually split. He's at least involved again. Pretty sure they know, but my second cousins are technically twins 2 years apart. Their parents did in vitro and 2 of the eggs were fertilized. They weren't ready for twins so they froze one of the eggs and had their second kid 2 years later. It's actually pretty cool. Not a parent, but my parents held this secret away from me for a long time. When I was 3-4, my dad volunteered at a baseball park to shuttle people back and forth on a golf cart. Well, one night he didn't come home till really late and I went to hi but stopped to see that he looked scared and distraught. He is normally a rough and tough kind of guy and has a big heart. So I asked him what was wrong, but he said nothing and that he was fine. I believed him and went to bed. I woke up the next morning to see that our cousin, who doubles as our babysitter, was at our house but neither of my parents were. I asked where they went and she said they went to the morning service of church and not the afternoon service. Again, I believed her and never questioned any of it. Flash forward 10 years, my mom told me what really happened. He was shuttling some guy back to the parking lot when the guy put a knife to my dad's neck. He then proceeded to take my dad behind a dumpster and molested him. So when he got home he waited for everyone to go to sleep and then tried to kill himself by overdosing on painkillers. My mom woke up in the middle of the night, realizing that he wasn't in bed. She found him in the bathroom on the floor motionless and called 911 where was sent to the hospital where was treated. He is thankfully still doing strong. I don't know where I would have been without him. Holy crap, glad he survived. After all the acid we did, we thought you kids would be flipper babies. After reading a bunch of these, I feel pretty good that my most fricked up secret is that I eat most of their Halloween Easter parade candy when they are at school. Not a parent but a child. This last Christmas I found out that not only was my mom had already been previously married and divorced, but my dad had a kid before he married my mom. So I have a half brother or sister that I have never met. The real kicker was I found it out from my new sister-in-law who had someone did some digging. Found out, assumed that I must already know and brought it up out of the blue on Christmas Eve while we were baking cookies. Before I found out I was pregnant with my first child, I took a crap ton of pills. I think it's the closest I've ever come to suicide. I had always dealt with anxiety and depression. I feel like the extra hormones put me over the edge. I found out about a week later that I was pregnant. Surprise. I was terrified the entire pregnancy that something would be wrong with him. Luckily, he was completely healthy and is an incredibly smart child. I've never told anyone. I feel so guilty. Serious, what secret could destroy your life if it got out? I hit a smallish lottery, few mil, a little while back and told absolutely no one. Family and friends included. I took a bunch of steps to secure my kids' futures and we live a very comfortable but not lavish life. I'm pretty generous with the people around me. I think that they just think I'm doing very well career-wise, or something illegal under the table. I justify it by thinking that if this was general knowledge amongst friends and family it would ruin relationships. My priority needed to be my kids. I have not paid income taxes in a decade. I don't get any withholding. I don't know how it got away from me like that. At this point I'm afraid to ask. I am employed by a company that allows people to work remotely. They only hire in specific states in the US. Not only do I not live in one of those states, I don't even live in the US. I am a US citizen but I'm currently not in the US, and it's because of this job and the crappy economy in the country I'm in I get to live a pretty damned lavish life. For every $1 it's worth about 600% more here because the currency is weak, getting weaker, and it's just cheap as crap to live here anyways. I've been working for months and I've had some close calls. I screwed up a couple of times and they questioned me about it. I had to lie. The fact that my brother, my father, And I know that my mom has been cheating on my dad for the past 3 years. It's a complicated situation. I occasionally, as in pretty much daily, go on Omegle and do rollerplays as a 25-year-old woman who's into being tied up. I'm an otherwise straight 22-year-old man and I have no idea what's wrong with me. I almost killed my sister years ago. She was about 3 and I was maybe 11 years old. I carried her to the terrace, 5 stories high including the ground floor, and like some dumb frick, I placed her at the edge of the terrace, above a barricade of sorts. There was nothing to protect her from falling, and directly below, 5 stories down, is a cemented path. I don't remember what was so important I had to do that I left her dangling there, at death's edge. All I remember is, she was starting to sway backwards, towards the ground. Alarm bells started ringing in my head, so I ran and somehow managed to grab onto her just as she was about to fall. I felt my heart racing against my chest. I hugged her for a really long time, too afraid to let go. To this day, I haven't told her. She's 25 now, nor my mom. Even typing this still makes me nervous. That height, how a baby's body would have ended up splattered all over the hard cemented pathway, how I could be institutionalized, how my family would have disowned me, how I would have missed watching her grow up, still haunts me. It developed an irrational fear in me of carrying babies around, even if I'm not the one carrying them, or even if there is no height involved. This might not ruin my life, but it could ruin someone else's. Well, here it goes. I was in an abusive relationship with my girlfriend when I was in high school. Everybody just thinks we were a bad couple, but it was far worse. It started off with little stuff like when someone made a joke about me, she would laugh and it was no big deal, but pretty soon she found out that she could torment me as a way to make people laugh and like her. We were both semi-unpopular, and it just kept escalating to the point that at lunch I would just sit there with my head down on the table while she and her friends mocked me. She broke up with me a few times, but I always took her back. Then came the first time that I tried to break up with her. She laughed and asked me why, and when I couldn't look her in the eye she hit me and told me to talk to her. I told her I didn't mean it and we just kept going on. Every once in a while, maybe once or twice a month, I would start to work up the balls to end it and she would hit me and ask where I would go and tell me that she was the hottest girl I could ever get. One time I told her we were done and she started shaking and crying, so I tried to give her a hug and she stabbed me in the arm with a pair of scissors and wouldn't stop crying and threatening me and herself until I agreed to wait. Eventually I hit puberty late in my junior year and became tall and strong enough to hold her down and stop her from hitting me. This really helped me mentally get out from under her thumb and I finally broke it off. We didn't talk and now I'm in college and life is grand, but I always wonder if my view of women was messed up by this. When I was about 11/12, the guy in the flat next door was a computer nerd type, and I got interested in learning a little, 1980-ish. To cut a long story short, he groomed me over a period of time. I found he had child pornography magazines and videos. It got as far as hugs and kisses, and then he tried to feel me up. That's the point at which my brain kicked into action and I legged it. I was intensely scared, ashamed, and somewhat retreated into myself. I realized my parents, and specifically my mother, knew something wasn't right in this odd child-adult relationship, and didn't act on their suspicions. That totally fricked with my mind and led to many years of confusion and introspection, and if I'm honest, some fricked up attitudes to people from myself. I told one girlfriend many years back, and she basically blanked it out, didn't want to discuss it, and made it fairly plain she wasn't sympathetic or could be of any help. I've managed to get past most of the issues around it, but I sometimes find myself watching TV films or documentaries where the grooming subject comes up and hits me again. Watching the Ray Donovan series brought it up, specifically where Bunchy has problems dealing with his past abuse. One scene I had to get up and leave the room before I went off and burst into tears in front of my wife. She paused it too so I wouldn't miss anything. I have gained some good things. I am quietly proud that I am assured of my sexuality, straight, without any difficulties in having gay friends. That could have gone very differently. I have a family, and have learned to be sociable, and have managed to create some level of trust with people. It still burns inside though at times. I have sort of accepted that it's something I will take with me to the grave. Well, I am from India and I have evidence to a 726.8 crore rupee scam that my former company did that basically robbed millions of students a chance at a good livelihood. I was put in the scam by the company, and when I said I will not and I resigned, the company told me that they will destroy my life if I made it public. I was 22 at that time and was scared. The owner of the company is related with police officers and literally they can screw my life easily, but not a single day goes by when I don't think about it. I can't stop myself from lying. Half the time I'll lie about things that don't matter and should have just told the truth for, but I can't stop myself from doing it. All the lies I've told, big and small, all catch up to at one point or another and are seriously damaging my life. My parents and brother don't trust me at all anymore because I've done some incredibly stupid things and lied about them. I've also had to do things or tell bigger lies to cover what started out as a little white lie. Other people around me that were caught me in a lie don't know how to act around me anymore. I know I need to stop and I am trying, but the more I try to stop doing it, the more I do it. This is slowly destroying my life and my relationship with my family, and there is nothing I can about it. A really good lifelong buddy of mine dropped out of college after 9/11 and joined the army. He completed 3 tours in Iraq, got married, had a kid. All was great for him. His mom was the type that was close to his friends because they reminded her of him while he was away, so us guys would take her out and keep her company as a group. One day she called me up and asked to go out and have a drink. She found some pictures or whatever of her son and I from childhood and she couldn't wait to share. We meet up at a local watering hole for a couple drinks and a few laughs. She kept feeding me drinks, and before I could say that it was time for me to head out, she had her hands on me and was very forward. I admit it wasn't a decision that I was capable of making at that time, so I went with what felt good. We went back to my house and had some of the craziest eye-popping tantric, drunk, sex. My buddy died in Iraq a few months later and I am a horrible person. I failed out of college and didn't tell anyone. I lied about still being in school and pretended to go to classes. My parents still thought they were paying for my college. That is the worst part of this whole thing. I wasted 6 months and a good $5,000, if not more. How much I don't care about a lot of people in my life that like me. Co-workers, friends, family. There are a ton of them I just don't care for really, and I'm just civil with them for convenience. Some of them have done pretty nice things for me, and I am thankful, but there are still some I just don't really like that much. I used to not be like this. I used to try and maintain all the relationships. Now many old friends, people that live far away, I don't even make an effort, and I wonder if I ever cared at all. The weirdest part is in social situations. I'm really good at being friendly and feigning interest in people's life. I've been complimented on being a nice and genuine guy, but there's this resentment I have for many people in my life that I keep hidden. The only people I really care for are a few close friends, my immediate family, and my girlfriend. Other than that, I'd rather just be alone. I am emotionally numb. I always have to fake being happy or excited about things. I guess it kind of sucks because I'm not happy or unhappy, and the only time I'm considerate is when I'm doing something because I know something bad will happen and not because of guilt or a negative emotion of any kind. I sometimes wonder why I exist, but I don't delve too deeply because I just don't care. I have a cross-dressing fetish, but I'm completely straight. I have an incredibly supportive girlfriend who knows, but I don't think I could ever handle telling anyone else, and Lord only knows what would happen my small social life. When I was about 9, my oldest sister died, age 32, and her 2 kids came to live with us. I'm a surprise child, so all of my siblings are much older than me. My nephew and I shared a room. He was just a year younger than me, and around when I was 11 and he was 10, we started doing sexual things. Over the years, we started out dry humping with clothes on, then clothes off, then eventually I started performing oral on him. Around age 13 or 14 we started doing anal. I was always the bottom, nearly every night. When I went away for college at 18, we never did it again and haven't spoken of it since. In fact, I don't remember ever talking about it. One of us would just give our gesture to the other that we wanted to frick and went at it. I'm 21 now and am in the process of coming out as gay. He identifies as straight and is in a relationship, but I wonder all the time if it's just for a cover up. Anyways, we're the only two that know about it and I wouldn't dare tell anyone, not even my closest, most trustworthy, best friend. Sometimes I fear he might tell someone one day. Every single day I fantasize about getting on a plane, going far far away, and starting over. I'm just too afraid to do it. Been banging the babysitter for years. I know you think this is the best thing in the world right now, but consider this. They've been banging you for years and getting paid for it. I failed out of college after 2 years because I was lazy and I was drunk all the time. I then joined the Air Force and was kicked out because of a heart disease I didn't know about. I think about killing myself at least once a week. My fiancée of 4 years broke up with me and I was so apathetic it didn't bother me. I just calmly collected my stuff and moved out. I can't sleep for more than 3 hours a day anymore. I'm not sure if I'm depressed or not. I just get up and go to work, then come home. I don't drink anymore, but I smoke almost a pack a day. I just turned 22, and according to a few doctors I'll be lucky to see 30. 40 will be a miracle not explainable by science. I'm going back to college in the fall, so at least before I go my family won't think I'm a total failure. Writing this actually made me cry. This is the first emotion I've had in almost a year. Thank you Reddit for letting me know I can still feel something. I've been living in my head for more than 30 years. As a child, I made some kind of fantasy world to escape from my miserable childhood and I never fully returned to the real world. I never got a proper education, since I can't concentrate more than a couple of hours before I get distracted and return to my other reality, and I have lost several jobs because I'm not paying attention. I don't have any kind of social life and generally prefer to just sit in the dark and dream my life away. My sister was sexually assaulted by my cousin when we were all young. That came out and it took years to get over it all, and now we are on a level ground again. The thing that nobody knows is that he sexually assaulted me as well. Nobody can know as it will tear apart my family. Every single day I think about killing myself. How great it would be. All my problems gone in an instant. Now, I am in therapy for depression. But I don't share those thoughts for fear of being institutionalized, even briefly, as a danger to myself. I don't think I'm a danger to myself. I've had those thoughts for quite a while without swallowing pills or a shotgun. Okay, so I cry just about every night because of my financial standings. I feel like a failure. I work as a line cook making minimum wage and hardly have any money for groceries or for anything personal in my life. I've gone hungry. I've gone without power water. I most of the times feel like my life is worthless. They say money can't buy happiness, but I can freaking guarantee that if I had some I wouldn't feel the way I do most nights when I lay down. I used to crap my pants until I was like 13. I had no control of my bowels. My mother knew, but that was about it. I don't even want to imagine what would have happened if my fellow students found out. My first girlfriend was really the love of my life. She was the only person that was ever able to finish my sentences, and we bonded over sort of a mutual disdain for the world we lived in. I knew her psyche was fragile and I literally gave her a reason to live while she was institutionalized. We broke up and she committed suicide. Or at least that's what I tell people. In reality, I cheated on her and she destroyed herself. She burned holes through her skin hundreds of times, sliced dozens of cuts through her body and face, and threw herself off a bridge. I can't even imagine what someone will think if I ever said those things. I've only told a couple people that it even happened, but as far as the details, I probably should do so, but I just can't face that. When I was about 13 I was discovering my sexuality and jacking off every day to twice a day. I was so curious about having my dong being touched by someone else that one day I asked my little brother, who was 9 years old. It was kinda awkward. He didn't understand what was going on. I didn't know it was so wrong and so creepy. I remember every little detail of the shameful moment. My CM dripping on my little brother's hand. I wasn't attracted by my little brother, I was just curious about getting a handy by someone else, and he was the only person which could accept to do it. It happened only one time. We never spoke about it. Now I'm 21 and he's 17. We have a wonderful relationship. He's my best friend. We laugh every time we see each other. I think maybe it would be good to get it off my chest, and maybe his too. and tell him that I don't want to ruin what we have now. I don't want him to see me as an abusive big brother or even think I might be. It was a child mistake. I didn't know. I sincerely hope he doesn't remember a thing. I'm in middle of a divorce and the only way I've survived taking care of myself and my daughter is prostituting myself this last year. My family would completely disown me if they knew. My ex barely helps as it is. If he knew I had any sort of money he would use it as a reason to help me even less. That I enjoy peeing in the sink when I am home alone because it feels sort of taboo. Well, here goes. Well, when I was younger I had a friend, let's call her Amanda. Well, we were at a park and across the street there was a building planned for demolition. Anyway, the genius in me had a great idea to go in it and check it out. As we were exploring, the floor caved and she fell down 2 stories and landed on some debris and was injured. While I caught myself on the first floor, she didn't make it past the first day in the hospital. I'm still haunted by the screams and the begging. Every year I have a little memorial to myself. I still blame myself for killing her. It doesn't get any easier as more time passes by. After this I slowly started to dull out feelings. Now I can't seem to care at all. It's caused me to try and kill myself multiple times, and every time I tell my friends they don't actually believe that I tried. They all ignore that and say to stop joking about that stuff, but they'll never know the truth. One day I hope she will forgive me. NSW. What are some dirty secrets you have seen at a bachelorette party that could ruin the marriage? 2 of the 3 bachelor parties I've been to were pretty vanilla. Drinks, grill, video games. Of course one of those omitted the drinks because Jesus. The third however was more fun. So turns out the groom and one of the groomsmen were lovers at one point, completely unbeknownst to the rest of the world. The groomsman, Chris, decides that tonight was the optimal time to tell the groom, Harris, that he loved him. That he's always loved him since the first time they kissed however long ago. The rest of us just sat there in stunned silence. Right there in my living room they have this huge argument about how Harris wasn't gay and how Chris said he was okay with just being occasional frick bros for the last 5 years, but they both knew it had to end when he got engaged. Finally it evolved into an actual fist fight and they both ended up with some nasty bruises. We broke it up eventually, but sometimes you just have to let out your physical frustration with your gay lover the night before he gets married. It's one of those weird things though. After it was over and they both calmed down, they just gave a big hug and that was that. Next morning Harris' dad is obviously curious why he has a black eye. We'd agreed to say paintball to everyone and that was the official story. Chris had a bruise too, but he's really black so you couldn't tell that much. Harris' sister used some concealer or something on his eye and the wedding went off without a hitch. Harris is still married to his wife and Chris is still his best friend. So all's well that ends well, I suppose. The bit about gay fisticuffs made me think this was going in a completely different direction than it did. Not a party but the rehearsal dinner. Groom's father reaches out and grabs a handful of bride-to-be's butt. She turns around and he sticks his hand up her skirt and up her crotch. She quickly jumps back, surprised and upset. Then she responds with, "Stop it, you are going to make me blush." His son came over and both his dad and fiance acted as if nothing. How did we find out about this? We watched the video the photographer took of that night. Yeah, update. You all are wondering what happened after. The wedding went on as planned. The couple made it past a year, not much, before calling it quits. There is no indication they saw the video. The guy and his dad have a great relationship, so I am guessing, no, they did not see the video or they are just that weird. Like a lot of you, I too wonder why none of his friends who say the video spoke up. I put my money on the affair camp. I would not be surprised if anything was going on between the guy's father and the bride. That is what makes sense to me. Welp, from this thread I learned that if I'm cheated on nobody will tell me. I worked in a photo lab. Normally it was cats and houses in the pics. But then a woman dropping off a few rolls of film was acting oddly. This is usually a clear sign that the pictures were going to be interesting. It was a bachelorette party. Normal stuff at first. The women were all fairly pretty. Then a safari-themed stripper was being featured. The pictures show most of the women at the party blowing the stripper. Then the stripper got the bride practically naked in a circle of them and dry humped her in several ways, rubbing his junk all over her. Then the pics were in a bedroom. The bride and another girl made love to the stripper. My guess was they were alternating who was taking pictures. The last photo was a cum shot on the ring. Oh, that's low. What a freaking psychotic crap bloom of a bride. In New Orleans, our bachelor group found a bachelorette group and started talking, dancing, etc. It was late in the night at this time, and our bachelor was dancing with their bachelorette mostly at the urging of the bridesmaids because they thought it would be cute. Not too long into it, he gets belligerently handsy and heads a bit up the skirt. I didn't see the act but spun around when one of the bridesmaids hollered, "Your bachelor just fingered our bachelorette." We bounced immediately. In New Orleans, Nuff said. Not a traditional bachelor party, but upon going out for drinks with him, the groom spent an uncomfortable amount of time voicing very real, foundational concerns about the union, his then fiancée, their terrible money situation. It was about 2 months prior to the wedding, and, in his own words, he wouldn't call it off because people had already bought their tickets and stuff. It was all around depressing because, on the actual day, she seemed pretty happy and he just looked kinda flat, a look that seems to be a permanent fixture in his demeanor these days. I think he was just too polite to initially call it off when he realized he wasn't 100% into it, and then it progressed into cohabitation, engagement, marriage. My bachelor party was a complete shitshow. By poetic coincidence, my best man was going through a divorce while things were ramping up toward my wedding. When I arrived at his place for the party, I found him sitting on the living room floor. On the floor, because, you see, there wasn't any furniture. His wife had come while he was at work and cleaned out the house. Like, thoroughly cleaned it out. No furniture, no glasses in the kitchen, no curtains. She left his clothes, still folded, in the place where the dresser used to be. In the closet, his clothes were on the floor. She'd taken the hangers. The booze he'd stocked up for the party, all gone, except for one empty bottle, left in the otherwise barren fridge. She took the mustard, even barren. He sat on the floor, shell-shocked and stunned. Occasionally he'd answer a question in monotone grunts. The other guys arrived, and some of them brought a couple 6-packs of beer. We all sat on the floor in the living room, occasionally tossing bottle caps at an empty bottle in the center of the room. If it hit, it'd make a ting noise, and we'd all give a Monty Python yay. At one point, one of us found a deck of cards in a pile of random stuff she'd decided she didn't want, and had thrown into a corner of the dining room. We threw cards at the target bottle for a while, until another friend made a discovery. She'd taken all the hearts, leaving only the spades, clubs, and diamonds. Best man started weeping. I'd managed to drink 2 beers. We'd told a few half-hearted stories and largely spent the night trying to convince the best man he was better off this way. Most of the guys left, and I stayed until the wee hours of the morning with the best man wailing, "Don't do it, man. It isn't worth it." Good times. She'd taken all the hearts, leaving only the spades, clubs, and diamonds. That's cold. I was on a bachelor party that ended horribly when his fiancée learned he had been cheating on her for the entire first half of their relationship. She called off the marriage over the phone with him while we were all getting drunk at a bar. Mood went from lighthearted to catastrophic in an instant, and none of his friends knew about it, so consoling him was really hard, since he was so clearly in the wrong. I've been to one bachelor party, my brother's. It was 3 guys, the groom, the best man, and me, sitting around a campfire shooting the crap and drinking whiskey. Of course, the wedding was put together in less than a week, so obviously there wasn't time to plan anything extravagant. Before you ask, no, it wasn't a shotgun wedding. The bride was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Not only did she want to experience a wedding while she could, they wanted to make sure he was her next of kin before the inevitable. Good thing they did, too. Her parents tried to go against her wishes in pretty much every way possible. For instance, she insisted on no viewing and being cremated, because she wanted people to remember her how she was when she was healthy. Her parents demanded an open casket. My brother told them in no uncertain terms to frick themselves. Whoa, that's amazing, and props to your brother. I sincerely hope he's doing well. Went to a friend's bachelor party as a DD. Everyone was very drunk. Groom decided to make love to the best man in the middle of a public parking lot. This was when we realized he liked men. Needless to say, his now wife still doesn't know he likes to make love to men. One time at a bachelorette party I found out that the bride was a lesbian and didn't want to get married, but she was doing it because her parents liked her fiance and they were really good friends, so she thought the marriage would be okay. I don't know if she ever told her husband about that, but they did end up divorcing later. Right around the time my brother-in-law-to-be was drunk enough to get maudlin, his friends and I duct taped him to a tree. Specifically, the tree he'd be getting married under about 16 hours later. I will definitely not be having my bachelor party the night before the wedding. My friend screwed a stripper at his bachelor party. We bought him a lap dance and he disappeared for about an hour. Apparently he paid a little extra and had some more fun. My ex-girlfriend said she fricked a whole bachelor party in Vegas a few years ago. She also said that there was video somewhere that one of the guys took. She is half Japanese and half Filipina, about 5 feet tall, and skinny yet fit, and was wearing a blue dress for you Reddit detectives that want to try to find it. I attended an old college friend's bachelor party. Worst that happened that night was he got a lap dance. His fiancée knew about that, allegedly. Couple of weeks later I am out getting a few drinks with another group of friends. We have too many drinks and think it's a great idea to go to the scummy dive bar. Think the kind of place the Always Sunny gang would find homely. Lo and behold, he was there in a shady booth, inspecting the tonsils of a vintage Walmart ham beast. He is clearly wasted and doesn't see me. I get another drink, figuring I will get up the nerve to do something. Spoiler alert, I do jack crap. He leaves with a girl after performing a digital cervical inspection of his prize for the evening. No idea what happened that night. He lived with his fiancée, but a couple of weeks later I get an email saying the wedding is off. Still friends with both of them on Facebook, but yeah, they are not together anymore. Your descriptions are magical. Bachelor drunk texted his ex when the party started winding down. Got back to where we were staying and he ended up sending obscene texts to her for hours. Sending pictures and all that crap. Apparently it happened a few more times after the wedding, too. I know of a couple that are together because the girl got pregnant. I also know who the father is. Hint, not the person she married. The guy who was the father was there at her version of a bachelorette party. He was her best friend, so he threw her a private party, like 5 of us. I was there for the first little bit as a close friend, but things heated up so I got the hint and bounced. The one good thing you can do now is telling the husband so he can have the chance of an honest life. Dang, I really never get woman who can let her husband raise another man's child without him knowing the child's not his. One of the craziest nights of my life. There was 9 of us. 5 of us were all buddies since elementary school, high school inc. Groom, and the other 4 were our more friends of the groom, but we all know each other at least a little bit. We go to the strip club and everyone is having a great time. Nothing out of the ordinary or over the top until this chick we knew from high school gets on the stage. I partied with her a few times in HS and didn't really know her all that well. She totally digs the fact that we are there, so she gives us a little extra attention, and once she was done on stage she took a few of the boys to the private showing room. Not me. Sometime as the night is going on, one of the boys convinced her to come back to the house we were going to afterwards. Little did I know at the time that one of the groom's friends had some blow, so it wasn't very hard to convince her. We get back to the house and everyone is pretty drunk. The guy with the blow and the stripper are in a room for a while, and after she comes out she is ready to give every guy a turn. We found out after that Mr. Blow told her she could have his bag if he hooked up with everyone at the party. The groom passed. One of my HS buddies went next and I was third. Unfortunately I don't remember everything as great detail because I was drunk and high. Herb, not Blow. But the stripper gave me a wicked lap dance and then I just got a BJ. Not long after that I passed out for the night, but every guy except for the groom and one other married guy got something from the stripper. 2 guys tag teamed her and got it on video. Haven't seen it, and she left with Mr. Blow at like 5 AM. B stole my herb after I passed out, but for the amount I had and getting a free BJ it wasn't too bad of a trade-off, lol. The groom passed. Every guy except for the groom and one other married guy. Those 2 bits made me really like this story. I'm all for a party, but hate the idea of married dudes or the groom using stag parties as an excuse to cheat. Stripper fricking. A lot of stripper fricking, but also a surprising amount of groom actually likes men. This happened a couple of years ago. Cousin was having his bachelor's party, but the guys got stuck with the kids so that the ladies could go crazy with their bachelorette party. So it was just pizza and Marvel movie marathon for the party. Next day I get a message saying that there will be a real bachelor party tonight to make up for getting stuck babysitting kids. This turns into a typical drink fest, gambling, GF wife ranting, etc. The cousin's friend then announces that he hired a stripper just as the doorbell rang. Turns out the stripper was my cousin's ex-GF of 3 years. So she starts doing her stripper routine, which was not that great emo. Clearly not a professional. She spends most of the time dancing for my cousin, which I could tell was a clear bet you wish you kept me. So she's finally done with her performance and goes to leave but offers a more private performance for the groom. And since the groom had a few too many shots he agrees and both head to the bathroom. All the while all the guys are hooting them on. 4 years later I see his ex at the grocery store with a little girl that looked to be 3 or 4 years old. I just turn around to avoid her seeing me, head to the cashier, grabbed my stuff, and just ran. I never dare tell him since he and his wife are in a happy relationship and trying to have a child together. First bachelor party when I was 18 and worked in a summer role at a petroleum engineering company. My colleagues were all young engineers in their 20s earning the big bucks. We went to the house where the party was and was handed a drink and a door prize number. We went down the stairs into the basement, and the first room had the groom tied to a chair with a drip of some rum drink going into his mouth. The TV had VHSP on it. This was back then. In came strippers, which proceeded to use their breasts to paint all the participants. After a while, some of the girls left, while the others did the traditional groom tied to a chair and having a lap dance process. Turns out the door prize was one of the strippers. I assumed that all bachelor parties would be similar. I can say, now, 35 years later, no. That's not when things get wild. It's more likely to be an after-work gathering with other employees and alcohol. Holiday office parties. Nothing's topped the one where someone got stabbed, another got physically abused, our CEO was nearly arrested and 2 marriages ended all in one night. Fun times. I was part of a bachelor party that was strip club hopping in Vegas. The bachelor went back for a private dance. The club has these little rooms with really small beds for private dances. We suddenly see the stripper, holding her outfit pressed against her chest, running to the behind the stage area while a large bouncer is escorting the bachelor out. At the same time another club employee informed us that the bachelor had to leave. We could stay if we wanted to but he had to leave. Of course we all left but he would not tell us any details of what happened. I still talk to the guy and to this day he won't say a word on what went on back there. We all have our theories. Was invited to a bachelor party once. We played so much Smash Bros and ate so much pizza I don't know how he made it to the wedding in the morning. My god. I don't know if the marriage would survive if the bride found out how much we drank. It must have been at least half a gallon of soda. The stripper got his dong sucked by the bride-to-be. Actually, aside from the bachelorette party, I'm surprised she hasn't cheated on him. Her glory hole is a free spirit. A good friend of mine made out with a groom on his stag party in Nick all the way from Ireland. He wanted to come all the way back with us. I feel bad for his bride. She didn't know he was on his stag party until about 15 minutes into the making out. I had a bachelor party in Las Vegas. It was amazing, everyone had a great time. Except I was never engaged. My buddy made up the story so he could go to Vegas and bang H. I was filled in about 10 minutes before we sat down to a dinner his wife was attending. I got really drunk with the groom and I was the best man. We slept together that night. No lovemaking. We just cuddled. Nothing like a bro cuddle. No homo. Just saw that a bachelorette party can lie somewhere between the extremes of bowling alley plus Wendy's versus hooking up with strippers. Believe it or not, you can have an appropriate amount of fun and crazy without ruining the marriage. My now wife and I had our respective bachelorette parties in Vegas, and we both had a great time. She went to a couple day clubs with her girls and also went to Chippendales. Got blackout drunk with her best friend taking care of her, and they have some hilarious stories from their adventures. My groomsmen and I pulled out. One of my close friends is rich and got us tables. I got a couple of my groomsmen laid, and someone almost got arrested for public urination. Great fun, but nothing I wouldn't joke about with my better half. Obviously, if you don't trust the other person to party without cheating on you, don't let them do that. But then at that point maybe reevaluate your decision to marry them. Just trying to provide some perspective here for anyone panicking after reading some of the stories. I heard from my wife that at my sister-in-law's bachelorette party the male stripper did this move where he flipped her over and she landed really hard on her back. Between the drinking and loose environment everybody just sort of laughed it off. She was actually a few months pregnant at the time, and when she had my nephew, he was born with some pretty serious learning disabilities. I don't think my brother even knew there was a stripper there, let alone that happened. Drinking, pregnant, born with learning disabilities. Think that has more to do with it than anything. Not a bachelor party but a golf tournament weekend with a bunch of people from our office. A girl I worked with just went wild, got drunk and was giving lap dances, flashing, letting guys put money in her panties, etc. She later disappeared into the woods with 2 separate guys and was making out in a bar with another later in the evening. I had known her for a few years and had never seen any inclination for that type of behavior out of her. Monday at work I talked with her and she was beside herself with guilt. I didn't tell her husband or anyone else about the weekend. Pretty sure her marriage would have been over if he had found out about it at the time, but this was at least 13-14 years ago. I think the only thing that saved her was that this was before the time of Snapchat, Twitter, etc. No way her behavior wouldn't have been documented today. You have been visited by the romantic doggo. Comment love is magic so you never fall in the friend zone. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.